Will Kerr, what's happening, man?
Hey.
Back for another Backbone Zone, and made it to the infamous Will Kerr's residence.
Welcome.
Thanks for facilitating it, man. Like, I'm frothing to finally get back here.
We just had a
second time's a charm.
Dude, we had a good session. Good.
Yeah.
No one fucking folded their leg in half.
I know, yeah. Dude, I can't believe I when I was driving out here, this was the thing that I was actually thinking about. I was like, I can't believe that I'm driving out to this place where there's essentially one of the sickest scenes I've ever seen, and it's like out here. You know, you get a bit of a weird feeling where it's like I'm in the middle of, could be nowhere, it could be anywhere, and
Dude,
I'm about to go to this sick spot.
Geographically challenged, like a little bit. It's been, I don't know, it's like moved here back home essentially, like out of necessity. Like,
yeah,
we were living in Goulburn, me and Helen, and we were like, can't afford a house here. Like, it was central to everything we were doing, but like essentially at the risk of the life we wanted to lead, we're like, why are we buying a house and to go to work? Like, why we want to essentially live the dream? Like, we want to have. I think what did it for moving back here was, like, went to Brad's, like, from Christchurch.
Oh yeah,
pretty sure he's Brad. Yeah. And we were there on a New Zealand trip with Mal and Nobs, like one of our first overseas trips, pretty much. And I was like, "This is your house? Like, you live here?" Like, and he's like, "Yeah, man, let's build whatever we want." And I was like, "This is a reason to buy a house." Like, that it is, like, people talk about your house being your home. But it's like like when COVID was on, I didn't have to leave. Like, everything that I dreamt that I wanted, I had made. Like, we built it. It was here. So I didn't feel, I definitely missed everyone, but I didn't feel a lagging of like, oh, COVID's happening and I live miles from everywhere. And like, yeah, I don't know. It was kind of, that part worked out really good.
Yeah.
Just to be at peace with, like, yeah, sweet, we've got everything we need here, like, in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, so, okay, let's go back so that then people know, because I know, but I want to let everyone know. So, we're in Young, in New South Wales.
Yeah, Cherry Capital.
Yeah, Cherry Capital, which is about 2 hours away from Canberra, and it's a pretty small town.
Yeah, we got 12,000 people.
Oh, that's bigger than I thought. I always thought
in the Shire,
yeah, in the Shire, sure. So that's pretty good. But, so you lived in Canberra for what?
Nearly 7 years.
Yeah. And then you decided to come back here and
Nah, there was a big intermission.
Okay.
Like, so if I talk
Dude,
the ear,
yeah,
I can talk the ear off
I'm
a post.
Talk my ear off.
So was with my missus at the time, out of school, like 2004, 2005. Building lull happens. Not heaps of work going on. Not a lot of permanent work going on, and I really needed to finish my apprenticeship. So I hit up MBA in I think Master Builders Association in Canberra.
Mm-hmm.
And they said they'd happily finish my last 2 years of my apprenticeship. And I was like, righto, sweet. So moved to Canberra and with her, and then that didn't work out so good. She moved back here early on and then kept doing her thing, which was fine. And then, lived in Canberra for 6 years, finished my apprenticeship, lived with Risty at one point, like, just after you guys opened the shop, pretty much. And then did that for a while, got signed off, was working for some builders, and then basically, like, just got itchy feet, and we're in between rentals, and I was like, I'm going. Like, this is the time. Like, I don't have a lease, I won't have anything. I own everything. Everything that's in my possession, I own. So I was debt free, and I was like, that's it. Let's go. Put the trailer on the back of the wagon, slept in the wagon, left Canberra, just went to Newcastle, up to Port Stephens, hung around Ulladulla and Barrel Lake for, like, worked in a caravan park and just stayed at the coast and was a gypsy for ages.
Wow.
And then, met Helen at a show. I can't remember who was playing, to be honest. And she was up from Melbourne. And then all of a sudden I was driving to Melbourne a lot. And then so Goulburn, I was in Young a fair bit through work on and off, still gypsying around. And then all of a sudden, I was like, oh, Helen got a job back in Goulburn, and I was like, definitely really into you as a human being.
Yeah.
So just went to Goulburn, and then lived there for nearly 2 years, and then we're like, right, let's buy a house and stuff, and everything that we could afford was, I was like, I'm not risking everything I've got going on as far as how I want to live my life to pay for a house.
Yeah.
So for under 400 grand, we moved out here instead of paying like nearly 700 where we were.
Oh yeah, and it just keeps on going up and up.
Yeah, dude. And so that meant that if we wanted to take days off, or if we wanted to, the idea of the lifestyle being like you can have a permanent residence and it doesn't have to cost the earth, the cost of that was being geographically challenged.
Yeah.
So like move to the middle of nowhere but be able to afford it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm starting to feel that same sort of thing. Like, you know, like it's perfect example. Like the perfect example is this right now. Like you come out here, yeah, it's a drive away from the city or away from where there's more like, I guess, convenience. But like you have built this thing with your backyard. Well, you know, your backyard's in your parents' house just down the road, and then this shed set up, the indoor bowl and the outdoor stuff. You've made it happen because you're able to facilitate that, because not every cent that you own is going towards paying for like a
100%. Like, and then also like scrounging hardcore, like, you know, having the space to put something, like when the MBD thing, when you rang me and you're like, dude, do you want this? And I was like, hell yeah, I want this. I'm coming. And I was like, boys, I've got to go. Like, go and hire a trailer and launch over there, help out with Act Jam, set it up, move it. And then the reward was, righto, let's tow this monstrosity of a ramp 2 hours away at like 70 Ks an hour.
Yeah.
And me and Bosco and Mal unloaded it, just the three of us.
Oh, wow.
It was, and that's how in Kai Moody's section in Ranch Hand, it's set up as a U-pipe, like full 80 spec, just 1800 wide, and he like does that foot jam and stuff on top.
Yeah. Oh, crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely commendable to have seen a different way of living, I think, like, and it's something that I draw inspiration from, being able to come out here and see that sort of like freedom that you're able to go and do the things you want. And for me, like, that's what's, like, I've been coming out to Young for a lot of years, and we've known each other for, 15 years or something, probably longer. I don't even know. Dude, you probably you would have come to my 21st, I would say. Yeah. So, that's 15 years.
Skinny Tyson.
Yeah. And, you've always been one of those guys that's been digging trails and doing stuff, but then I feel like you have just shown that even though you're not in this, say, BMX city like Canberra is, you're still just living the dream, and you're now bringing riders out here, like.
Well, it's been that part's crazy to me, that like people still want to turn up, because like essentially building, like, the reason I started back digging jumps at mum and dad's was because when I was living in Canberra, the garden got ploughed, which was like only seriously like maybe 10 turns from Hush.
Yeah.
Like,
dude, and it's even closer to Snails. Think about that.
Like, it's literally, you could probably, if you had a good arm, you could probably hit the Snails from where the garden was on the river there.
Yeah.
And even that was like, we were doing our own thing. Like, we didn't want to dig that hard.
Yeah,
like with the Bone crew. And if we got something done that day, then sweet.
Yeah.
Like, but also we were on a little bit of a different schedule. Like, we all worked, we were all tradies. Like, we were at work at 7, and by 4 o'clock, between pouring concrete or lifting frames, you were done. So you might really want to go to the trails, and you'll just get there, be in the trails, and just sit and just be.
Yeah.
And there was a few people who weren't that keen on that.
Oh, yeah. So
we were like, oh, we'll just do our own thing.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know, we always felt welcome at Hush, or like anything that the Bone's ever done, but it just wasn't our speed.
Yeah.
So that was how come me and Mal became such good friends. Like, because we both had a similar schedule, ride Western after the sun went down, like after being at the trails, like go to work for 8 or 9 hours, go to the trails for the last 2 hours of daylight, get a feed, go and hang out at Western, do some airs, and go to bed, and do it all again for like 3 years.
Yeah, man. I feel like that era of that BMX lifestyle, seems to have waned a bit in Canberra, but I'm sure it's it's still alive in other places. But there seemed to have been this period of time in Canberra
there
when
definitely
everyone was doing that.
It was like
thing.
it was pretty much like, I feel like it was like, what was it like? I can't remember one of Mal's name right off the bat, but he was always like, I've got to go home and check my MySpace, and I was like, what do you mean? We're doing it right now. Like, what do you mean the internet? Like, it took me a long time to even check my bank account on my phone, like, because I was like, this is fucking weird. I've got to find an ATM, like. And it's crazy. The whole world has changed in the last, like, that was what, 2006-ish, 2006 to 2008.
Yeah.
And then like what a time. Like, what's the whole world's changed since then.
Yeah. For sure.
And I think the scene, as far as like my external observation, I think the scene's still strong. It's just in a different form.
It's in a different form for sure. Yeah.
Like, there's more dudes connected on the internet who have their niche connections, whereas there wasn't that bulk internet contact. And so if you weren't at Western on Friday night, you weren't going to see anyone.
Yeah.
Or really talk to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So to be a part of the community was literally to turn up to church on Friday night.
Yeah. Dude, that's exactly right. I've never really thought about that. Like, because you can get that communication through Instagram. And then you get this like, I've spoken to my mate, but you didn't really see them.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, you're right, with Western, that's how it was for so long. It was like the meeting place every week. You would go there.
Even if you weren't riding, there was dudes turning up there that hadn't ridden for fucking 2 years.
Yeah.
Grab some beers.
Yeah.
Sit down, talk some shit with your mates.
For sure.
Righto, go on. And then, like, I don't know, who's that dude? He's like a philosopher dude. He's like Alan D. Baton. And he's like he wrote a book, like The Science of Religion.
Okay.
And he like talks heaps about that, like the repetition of just the doing. Like, that's where the community lies.
Yeah.
And then there's a part of that I think happens with like the Valley View Jam and stuff, like with the whole, like, the idea that like everyone who comes is literally called the stayers. Like, that's how that whole thing happened, because there were dudes that were coming for only like a night or a day or on the way past, because the jam happened to be on and whatever. But then there was the stayers who would turn up the week before and hang out, because for a lot of people in Australia, it's a fucking long way to go.
Yeah.
Like this year, the boys from Adelaide, shout out to Nathan Parker and the Adelaide crew, like, dude, making the drive like 13 hours. And then the Brisbane boys have been doing that drive pretty much since Johnny and Weeksy did that drive like a few years ago. And like that's 13 hours the other way. So like it's very humbling, and I am always very grateful for people who are willing to make a mission to just the middle of nowhere where you aren't going to be able to buy a veggie burger on Sunday. Like, if you ask for that at the pub, they'll probably just shut the door. Like,
yeah. I understand what you're saying. But like, so that's what I want to, I guess, go back to with the whole jam stuff. So you were really early on. So you moved back here and then I guess made the jumps at your parents' house.
Nah.
More legit. Like, how did that work? Because I remember
the garden got ploughed.
Yeah.
And I was still in Canberra. But after that one, so that got ploughed the day before we were going to ride. So we all had to work Saturday morning. We'd finished the line finally. Righto, let's go. Like, there was 3 of us, and we're like, let's go ride the new, like, as a whole line. Let's go and ride it. This is going to be the best. We all walk up in the morning with chips and everything. Turns out Saturday morning when we're all at work, someone's driven the Bobcat in there and just fucking ploughed it, like, unannounced. And we're all just like, maybe this is why people are into video games. Like, this is heartfelt shit. I'm over it. And then so it was easier mentally and emotionally to do a drive for 2 hours when I had time to go and build my own shit that I knew was going to stay there. Yeah. And then I could be at peace with it. But it also, for lack of better words, it took a little bit of that sense of urgency away from it. Like with you have the trails, which is like, oh fuck, they might go soon. So you kind of, I was still savoring the moments that I got to dig because I knew it was going to last. But also it took away that like immediate like sense of urgency that you have with like a public spot that might get found out and dozed.
Yeah, sure.
So it was an emotional trade-off.
Yeah.
So like not be able to go to the jumps all the time, but know that what I built and tarped would stay.
It was just staying far out. That's so crazy to me.
So that was that when we did it was like 2008, that the very first thing that B-Dog filmed, like the Fun in Young.
Yeah.
That was literally like we all left Canberra. Like I didn't live here then.
Ah, far out. I'm tripping. For some reason I thought you moved back to Young, but a few times. But that makes sense.
I definitely moved back to Young a few times, but it wasn't then.
Wasn't then. Okay. So you had jumps at your parents' house that you were building, sort of just chipping away at. And then it seems like you've always been doing that at your parents'. Like the jumps have always evolved.
Oh yeah, we've been like, so where you drive past my parents' house and you drive around up on top of the hill to turn and face the trails, the original spot at Mum and Dad's was on the crest of the hill.
Oh,
like there
wow.
was like but I was like 10 and didn't even own a BMX. Like,
Yeah.
I was barefoot pedaling around on a mountain bike over like motocross style fucking lumps.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Because like my BMX career didn't even start till I could afford to buy my own bike essentially.
Yeah.
Like I was almost driving.
Yeah, okay. So you started riding a little bit later.
Like, dude, like 16 was
Oh,
when
wow.
I got my first BMX.
Man, that's crazy. That's cool.
Like I remember when we were 18 and Nobs did what we now know as a Smith grind. But I 100% believed for quite a period of time that he invented that trick because I had no fucking clue. I had not seen that particular trick or paid attention to it in a magazine that I saw, which was mostly the Ride UK that we could get from the local news agency in Young. And I wasn't internet savvy enough to be like ordering shit from the online because that was just like some weird juju at that point.
Yeah. Online shopping was a little bit different back then. Yeah, so you had jumps in your parents' backyard. They got, I know that I would come out here every year from the first year, I think that.
From like 2008 pretty much.
Yeah. And then they were evolving, and it was always impressive to see, like, when you first built that. I don't know if Bessie's the same jump position.
It's exactly in the exact same spot.
Yeah, okay.
It's pretty much the only, in its essence, original feature.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you had that, but then at least to me, did you feel like you had a pivotal point when you were like, right, I'm gonna up level these jumps?
Well, because I figured out how I could build things, like, because that was all a very honest reflection of my riding.
Yeah.
Like, I was kind of building shit legitimately as good as I could ride it / come up with.
Yeah.
And so that was when like the transfer stuff started happening because I was like, oh man, it'd be cool if I could know what that feeling was like. And so that was when those shitty tabletop lips were up the top. Those like when there was like 2 4-packs.
Yeah, sure.
You flipped one of them.
Yeah.
Psycho. But yeah, it was always like, I'm chasing that feeling. I don't know anywhere where I can go and get it, so I'm just going to build it. And it was probably a heinous version of what I was feeling, like what I was chasing in its logistics, but made it work. Like it was still, I was definitely going from one lip to another landing that was next to it. And so that was like ticking that box. So I got to learn a lot more bike control because the nearest BMX track's 2 hours away. So like even those little things of just like air body movement learnt on site, essentially like on the go as I built it. I was like, I don't know how this, I didn't have anyone to teach us either, to be like, this is like, I couldn't imagine what it'd be like to grow up and have Russell around.
Oh, yeah.
To watch someone who's very good at what we're talking about doing already.
Yeah.
Sorry, like he's learnt it too somewhere, but to, I don't know, to have that idea evolve, but to be able to see it done in like not see a photo of Doyle transferring something in Pittsburgh, but to actually see it in person. How far is that away? How twisted did you get to line that up? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure that some dudes don't think about that stuff and they just send it, but I was like, I needed to understand how it worked to be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit because I have a lot of questions about the whole cerebralness of your riding and just BMX in general. But so I guess what I'm getting at with the whole jumps thing, your jumps have always evolved, and I can understand what you mean, as your skills are evolving, you're thinking you're going to build stuff up. But then I felt like you weren't potentially you can tell me if I'm wrong with this, but you went overseas, or you went overseas a few times, and then all of a sudden, I came to your jumps, and all of a sudden you've got like one of the gnarliest features I've ever seen, like that, the 30-30 line with the shark fin.
With the big tombstone at the end.
Yeah.
That was coming back from England. That was, so shout out to Joe and Loz, like at Grandma's. Dude, right in that spot, felt like the shape of everything. I trusted everything straight away, but it was big, especially for the UK. Like that spot, like the last jump at Grandma's, like it's a pretty famous jump. There's a photo of Scott the Punk.
Oh yeah, I've seen
the
that.
Piss out of it on a blue bike. That's the last at Grandma's, and so reasonably like very iconic spot for England because it was quite big and everyone was giving them shit because they were machine built. But I was like, as an adult, who the fuck has the time to do this by hand in a field? Like, fair enough. But they had access, so like all the power to them to get it done and actually make what they wanted. Yeah. But yeah, road.
Wait, you didn't cut all this with a handsaw?
Yeah. And I believe the line's called Knob Squelch. I believe.
Okay.
And then in that they had this 90-degree inline hip, and I rode it, and I was just like, I have never felt that before on dirt. And then I got home, and I was just like, I'm gonna build one. Yeah. But I couldn't put it anywhere that would do it justice how I wanted it to feel, because in their spot, it's like a 5.5, 6 foot lip. And it's maybe 13 to 15 foot, like lip to center. So it's not that big, but the landing is just like, it goes all the way down the hill, like it's massive. And just that twist and free fall that I hadn't got anywhere except for probably at Western was the last time I felt like a weight transfer like that. And I was like, man, that's sick. Like I love how dropped your shoulder gets, like, and I was frothing that feeling. And I was just like, righto. Like, and then that came about because we were like, 30-30 was there, and we were just riding to the end, and we were going to build us something. We didn't know what, but we knew we were hauling ass. And I was like, it's going to be intimidating, but this is the spot for it. Like, we don't want another relatively big right hip. We have one right next to it. Like, it'd be cool to have something different. Yeah. And then I was just like, I wonder, let's build it here. Like, let's make like a giant hip. Yeah. And just try and chase that feeling. And then me and Johnny came out in like November. I can't remember.
Johnny McKellar.
Yeah, Johnny McKellar. I came back from England, was still just got out of surgery from my broken foot, was hobbling around on crutches, and me and John, the top half, definitely mostly John, like we stacked up a 9-foot lip in like 4 days. Yeah, wow. And then we just both stood there and looked at it, and there was this big pile of grass behind it, and we're like, well, it's definitely scary. Like, so we just kept building it until we were scared. Like that's how we justified the height of it. Yeah, sure. And then the landing wasn't built. There was nothing really around it. And at that point, Johnny stood back and looked at the roller, and his second last clip in Have Fun, Die Trying, when he transfers across, he called it then, like 2 years prior. Far out.
That's an unbelievable transfer too. Like I don't. Yeah.
Dude, to 360, dirty 30, and then just line it up and go.
I know, that is insane. It's a not make sense transfer, that's for sure. The fact that he saw it before the jump was even built is insane. Maybe that's how he saw it, because he was like, well, there's only one landing table there, so maybe I'll transfer. Yeah. But like, that obvious change, like the obvious change in the trails. I think you had Fushk staying here, or he was
when we built Death Shark, that was when I got back from America in like 2013. Yeah. And me and Fush were riding, we were having a good time, and we were like, and that was when Supercross was a thing. So you came around the berm of Borders and went straight. Yeah. But that sucked. Because it was, you were working real hard, and then there was all of this release, and the landing wasn't big enough. The jump after it was kind of shit. And so you had like the fastest you were going at the trails to kind of nothing. Yeah. And so there was like 6 months of digging on that to have it kind of be a bit shit. And then got back from the States. Fush turns up, I don't know, maybe like 3 months later. He was literally the first person who stayed here after we bought the house.
Okay. Yeah, wow.
because he came here picking cherries.
Yeah, yeah.
Shout out to anyone who wants to be gypsies and live in the shed and go and pick cherries. I know, trying to facilitate the gypsy life a bit.
Yeah.
And we were like, how do we get down here with all of this speed? It's only me once you leave. Like, Chris was still living here then, but like, you know, we were digging together, but there was only the two of us.
Yeah.
And so between the three of us, we were like standing there looking at it, and we're like, we're already here. We're already flying. How do we get more jumps without building a whole new line? And then I was like, oh, fuck that thing at Heathens.
So explain. So you're going down a hill into a right-hand berm, right? So you go down and the drop in elevation is what? Like you...
Oh, it's a couple of meters.
Yeah, you... At the bottom of that landing in that first jump heading into borders, the bottom of the landing would almost be like the top of the... Like you drop down far.
Yeah, like it's probably 4.5 to like 5.5 meters of elevation.
Yeah.
Because like... That's the third jump when you transfer into borders. It's only like 7 foot long. Borders right hips like 18 foot long.
Wow.
And then Death Shark's like 23 foot.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So you're coming down a hill. You had a right berm at the time that led you to that Supercross jump. Yeah. And then you were like...
And then we talked heaps about like building a lip, like a jump over the berm. And that was originally what was going to happen. And then we were just like... And then I was talking to Fush and I was like, dude, that offset thing at Heathens, when they just had a pile of dirt in the middle of the berm as you ride around it, and then you went off the back of it, and it was a transfer that you kind of weren't really supposed to do, but it was there, and it was kind of marked that if you went off this thing, there was like a blind lander on the other side of the berm that was from their big line that came around the back.
Oh, yeah.
And you could just transfer it into it and finish the line.
Yeah, sure.
And I was like, why don't we just ride off the fucking berm? Like, we're already here. Like, we're moving.
Yeah.
We'll just treat it like a lip.
Yeah.
So we put one barrow of dirt on top of it to like mark where we thought the transition lined up to get over the back. Grabbed the tractor, piled up some shit, measured that, and we're like, righto, well, if you're gaining 7 foot in one jump, 7 more foot should be about appropriate. Let's go and see if it happens. And we rode out of it. Like, both of us rode out of it first go. Like, and worked. Like,
man, because I don't reckon... I've said this to many people, and I think I've said it to you as well, but that shark fin jump, in terms of intimidation factor, I reckon that's one of the most intimidating jumps I've ever seen. But then when you ride it, it's like, oh, hang on, that was like perfect. Like,
yeah.
But the crazy thing is, I rode it as a berm first, so it was, it was just a berm, and then all of a sudden it's just got this little triangle piece sticking off the top of it, and this landing that's like way down there. It was such a trip out to see that, like, you built this line that was, all the other stuff that's at a Valley View is sick and legit, but then this next level line like appeared, and I was like, holy shit. Will's definitely been riding some trails in Europe.
Well, that was Europe, and like that was fresh from coming back from Hazelwood.
Oh,
like,
sure, yeah.
Like up there with hands down the gnarliest thing that I've ever seen in person. Like, I haven't been to PMP and I haven't been to MX, like two pretty like iconic spots as far as like trail dudes go.
Yeah.
I feel like MX is possibly up there with like technically the gnarliest spot on the planet.
That's Belgium, right? Yeah.
And then PMP just looks unreal.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, I got to America and I don't know, for lack of better words, I sucked at riding trails. I found out very quickly. Like, I love riding trails, but I was fucking terrible at it.
Yeah, sure.
Because like, we went to New Zealand and we'd been around and like we rode heaps of stuff in Australia, but we weren't building stuff like that. We weren't building things that had that much tranny in the jumps. We weren't building anything like that. And so I'd never ridden off a lip that resembled anything like that, and I got fucking worked.
Yeah,
so bad. Like, me and Hazelwood, visually, we are mates. I rode posh in board shorts because I had the biggest cherry on my ass from crashing the baby line at Hazelwood. Like,
wow.
And that was why I ended up riding fucking posh in like bright blue board shorts, because it was the only pair of anything that I had that wouldn't rub on my ass.
Oh, crazy. I mean, that's I don't know how to describe it, but, you know, honest review of yourself, you know, to be able to say like, oh, far out, you know, I love this form of riding, I love this culture, but like, you've got a ways to go.
Oh,
but
dude.
the cool thing about it is like, you know, what I've I guess learnt from you even before this is the fact that like you see something, so then you're like, well, I need to replicate it myself. You know, you're not just like, oh, it'd be sick to go to that park that has this. You just end up building it, you know, like, oh, I've never done a transfer, so I'll build a transfer, you know.
But also that came from that mentality was birthed out of necessity.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have, or the skate park that we had in Young was dog shit. Like, it was the most, I'm positive on skateboards.com.au, it's still there, the original Young skate park. And it's the most heinous thing you've ever seen in your whole life.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I don't know. And so we were building stuff because we wanted to ride. Like, that was, if you wanted to ride stuff, you either rode the very limited street that we had, or you went to like Blackguard's Gully, like the old gold mine quarry, and just fucking started digging after the rain.
Yeah.
Like, that was it.
Dude, this is the thing. I feel like small towns breeds this creativity and, you know, drive to get shit done. Because, like, look at Mount White or somewhere like that. You know, like heaps of places. It's because there's not something that's being given to them. So then all the best shit comes out of this place where there was nothing before. You know, like look at what you've done now with your backyard. Well, this, what do you call this? The indoor setup, and then you know, your jumps down the road at your parents' house. You have got to a point now where the fucking best riders in the whole wide world come to your spot because you have, like, if you build it, they will come attitude, you know.
I forgot about that Field of Dreams thing.
Yeah, the Field of Dreams, you know, like, it's so, it should be inspiring. It's inspiring to me, but it's really cool because I've never really thought about that extra, like, you know, you've gone somewhere and then you're like, well, fuck, we need to just, like, we can just do this here. You know?
Well, because the flip side of that is like, not everyone has, especially me growing up, like, not everyone had the funds or work schedule to just keep pissing off to somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, and then, like, in Australia especially, like, everywhere else is fucking far away.
yeah.
So, like, you know, like, the opportunity to just drive for 6 hours takes 6 hours. And then you've got to get there with enough gumption to still ride or suss it out or find out that it's shit or whatever. And half the time you might as well just go to work, earn $1, be comfortable, and then when your spare time, instead of spending all weekend driving somewhere, just make your own fun.
Yeah.
Like, build your own shit.
Dude,
like,
that's good advice for sure. Like, I feel the same way, you know, like, I've gone overseas to the States and whatnot, but I'm never, like, just pissing off to go ride places, and that's maybe why you just stay in town and dig jumps when you got a spare second rather than pissing off. But yeah, it's cool, man. Like, I think it's definitely a positive thing to think about, the idea of building it if you don't have it. I think
like, I don't know, heaps of people need to stop looking at, like, this is unreal. Like, you know, like, I'm very lucky human being to be able to facilitate this. But also, it wasn't always like this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there was a time when me and Mal lived in a shed together on the floor.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Or like Mal lived on my couch in our shithouse flat, like in Curtin, like where we had nothing.
Yeah.
Like, that was also what taught me the value of your time. Yeah. Like, and why, like, if you get to do it, it's your thing. You know, like, I don't really have a point to that, but it was just kind of
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's well, your time is the most valuable
like, this
thing
is
that
taken,
you have.
like, say, like, what we're staring at now is an evolution of, like, the last, well, we're now 36, so the last 6 years. The bowl exists because I really wanted to learn how to build a corner. And then as soon as I found out I could do it, I was like, well, everything I've built up until this point is shit. Like, and then it was like, right, let's start learning more about how to do this better and evolve that so I could do dirt things with wood.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Because it was like, I like creating heaps.
Yeah.
Like, I really froth the design and build process.
Yeah.
But this was like, the timber thing was next level because it was like, you can't change it. Well, you can, but it's fucking hard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Whereas like the dirt stuff's always been sick because it's like, I want this feeling, I'm chasing this. And then this all happened because I was chasing the UK timber feeling. Like, I was like, we don't have that. Like, and I was just, but also like had the facility, the area and the funds, and been a chippy for 15 years. Like, there wasn't that much of a leap for me to build this.
Yeah.
Like, it took me 3.5 years to scrounge all the stuff because like there's no way in hell I could buy this.
Yeah.
Like, all of this is stuff from, drove to Adelaide, like to get Chief Street.
Oh, yeah, that's
Like,
right.
that's what the big mini ramp is. Like, that's all Chief Street. Shout out
Is
to
it?
the, yeah.
Oh, crazy.
Well, the transitions are, the top ply is obviously new.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's Chief Street
Wow,
guts.
crazy.
So, and then that was, yeah, like that was a huge mission. Shout out to Helen for doing a fucking 13-hour drive with me to go and load up a ute and trailer full of shit and then spend 16 hours driving home at like 18 k's an hour, totally overloaded.
Oh, God. Dude.
Thanks, babe.
Yeah, man, you got a good one. No, but that's the whole thing about this stuff is like, you know, the big point that at least I want to get across from looking from the outside in is it's like, you have built this thing that is fucking unbelievable. Like, if anyone got the chance to ride this, and anyone that has ridden it, I'm sure they'd agree. Like, it's like next level to ride it, you know. But you're right. Like, you have facilitated it over a long time. And it's been cool to watch that evolution. You know, like, we're sitting where there was like a tiny
Mini
little
ramp,
2-foot mini ramp.
Yeah.
And I remember coming
you
here.
were here on my
and I was
30th.
like, holy fuck, you've got a mini ramp in your shed. This is sick.
Well, because which movie was it? One of James Fox's movies. Oh, the It Happened jam, the It Happened Valley View jam thing. And like, the boys are jumping from upstairs onto the dirt.
Yeah.
And there was the mini ramp upstairs because I was like, I finally own my own house. I'm building a mini ramp in the shed because this was originally always going to be my workshop. Like, I was like, I'm going to have a workshop. I'm going to be a proper adult, blah, blah, blah. That was fucking hoiked out the window almost immediately after realizing that I could build a giant ramp in the shed. And then, yeah, like, that was the evolution of that because it was like, mini ramps are easy to build. Like, you know, you can build dog shit ones and they're still fun.
Yeah,
and they don't cost that much even if you buy everything new because it's only like, you know, maybe like 6 sheets of ply for the top, and then, you know, go and scrounge some material, and then maybe like 3 or 4 sheets of ply for like the actual transition piece. Mm-hmm. But even then, you could just stack pallets up and cover it in plywood and skate or ride that. Like,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's, you know, to see that evolution is really cool, and I think it's something that probably should be, like, I know that you've got that no phones sign, and I believe in that very much so, because I think that there's a certain quality that should be saved for real world like interactions. Now, you know, when you come here in real life and you experience it, you don't want to be on your phone, and if you do, like, you're missing out, you know, on the real shit that's happening.
Yeah.
But like, the only way that I can explain it is that kids or anyone should see this place and not be like, man, I wish I could go ride that, but almost see it from, like you said, you started with small things and you didn't spend a shit ton of money, and it's just been time and perseverance, and now you've got this place that is, you know, you have people begging to come and ride it, you know.
Well, it took me 9 months to frame this up.
Yeah, wow.
Like, of chipping away at it at night, like 2 hours a night. Like, I ended up, like, buying more tools, like shitty ones, just to have in the shed so that I didn't have to get all of my work shit back out, because after a day of building stuff, I was fucking over building stuff. I fucking had enough.
yeah, fair enough.
But also I was really hungry to ride the bowl. Hannah was on her way. We're about to have our second kid. And I was like, if I don't get this thing done before Hannah lands on the ground, I'm never going to have this much time ever again.
For sure.
I've had time. I definitely have time. But I don't have that much time.
Yeah.
Ruben was sleeping during the day on the weekends. He was passed out by 6 at night. Have dinner with Helen. Go and put the tool belt back on. Hook in until 10:30. Get real tired. Go to bed. Wake up at 6. Go to work.
Yeah. Wow, man. Very impressive. It's something that I don't know. It's a little bit foreign to me, the idea of building stuff with wood. But when you put it like that, I guess I've helped with smaller ramps just at the shop, and I understand it all now, and this is the type of thing that gets me really excited to move out of the city, so
the whole thing is the canvas now, and it's all inside a box. So if anyone wants to really fuck with me, I'm probably going to tell them to get bent.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's awesome, man. Yeah, so you have got this this DIY ethos that you've kind of just, I guess you've always had, and it's just taken it from small jumps in a yard to now you've got big jumps in a yard plus this indoor bowl. But not only that, I feel like it's because you have this eye and a real you're very cerebral in your thinking with BMX, and I kind of wanted to talk to you about that stuff too, because we always have chats about bike setups.
Yeah.
And in fact, you were one of the people that I bought my new bike here that's got the disc mount, and you were one of the people that I really wanted to talk about before it got finalized, because I knew you had opinions on it, because you are someone that thinks about that sort of stuff. So you have had a pretty standard trail setup for a lot of years, and then you got a custom bike made.
Yeah.
But now you've got 2 bikes.
Yeah, dude. 2 bikes is the dream.
plus some different sort of parts. Talk to me about that sort of stuff. Where did you come up with all of these ideas?
So, I guess that was kind of I really love having brakes for riding the trails. I froth being able to stop. Being brakeless at the jumps is, in my opinion, a bit dumb. Stopping with a finger is way better than putting both your feet down, breaking your ankles, or falling over the back of a lip and fucking yourself up. You could just use your finger and avoid all of that trauma.
Yeah.
So having brakes at the trails is sick.
Yeah.
If you want to ride no brakes, sweet. But you're also probably very confident or stupid.
Yeah.
I don't care which one. There's boys who ride the trails brakeless, no fucking dramas. Froth it.
Yeah.
Fush did one of the gnarliest backflips on the left hip in borders, brakeless, after being here for about 45 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was the most insane thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
He real good.
Yeah, he's good.
But he's not some street kid that's rolled up and trying to ride the jumps brakeless. So that was why we built the filters up the top. If you can't hit that stuff, please don't go down the bottom, because you've never been that high off the ground in your whole life. And I would like you to go home alive, because you're at my parents' house.
Yeah,
but anyway,
for sure.
Getting back to the bikes thing, was I rode brakeless for most of the time that I was in Canberra, because our jumps were small. We were riding heaps of skate parks. I put pegs back on for the first time since 2002, after only really having them on for about a year, because I didn't find BMX until quite late. But I didn't like having pegs on at the trails, and I didn't like having brakes on at the skate park. And then all of a sudden I was like, man, I have these shitty wheels, these bent forks, and this half-assed frame. I really just need some cranks and bars, and I've got a whole nother bike. And so kind of half-assed a bike together as my park bike, because that way it could be brakeless with pegs. And if I fucked it, I didn't care. That whole thing was probably worth about $200, most of which was brand new tires.
Yeah.
But then, like, if I tried to grind something or threw it at a tree or whatever, or if it got nicked, I wouldn't have been that gutted.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, the trail bike has always been, like, the speed machine. I care heaps about that thing.
Yeah.
Like, it is, like, the Woods is the nicest thing I've owned. Like, it's all the geometry that I wanted, everything. Like, after riding multiple bikes for a lot of time, like, testing out different geometry to understand what that felt like. Because I was like, man, why, I don't know, for lack of better words, why did the death grip feel like shit? Why is that to me? Like, why did it feel like shit to me? Geo-wise, it was good, but it turns out because the rear end was way too short for how I ride.
For what you like.
I didn't say it was shit in general.
No.
Like, it was shit to me.
Yeah, for you didn't like it.
And then that was when I started running things longer than 14 inches long in the rear end, because I was like, I actually want to give this lip fucking hell when I ride off it. Like, I don't want to be thinking about looping out when I'm charging a 30-foot set.
For sure.
I want to just be like, I'm pulling back as hard as I can right now.
Yeah.
And so that was where that trust and knowledge came into, like, fucking with geometry, because I was like, I rode T1s for a long time. And then I rode Dan Hennessy's FBM, and I was like, fuck, this thing feels unreal. Why is that?
Yeah.
Why does this thing feel so much better to me? Oh, Lana nerding. Oh, 11.5 BB. Sweet, 11.5 BB is where it's at.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Sorry, T1, like, I can't ride your bikes anymore. I don't like having my knees in my chest.
Yeah. Yeah, so you just mess around what works. But but just recently, so you're not just one to rest on your laurels either. You're not just a 11.5 BB.
Yeah.
So you started messing around with the crank length.
Oh, dude.
So let's go.
So that was kind of born from breaking my leg, because I was like, my ankle doesn't bend properly anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, it would be nice if I could squat more. How do I do that without having my feet further apart and having my ankle bend that much? And I was like, I'll just stand up straighter. So shorter cranks makes heaps of sense. So that was the initial thought. I just want to stand up straighter. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like, through, like, Remy Morton's little adventure with his little Red Bull adventure, like, him messing with geometry of mountos and stuff, I was just like, I started getting really curious, and he was on a couple of podcasts and was just talking about how comfy his hips and everything felt from having shorter cranks. And I was like, I'm into this. Like, I've been buying new different parts this whole time. And then shout out to PJ Turns in England, who was like, dude, you've been experimenting buying new parts ever since you stopped running Haro Slim Bars. Why would you stop now?
Yeah, that's very true, isn't it?
And I was like, sold. And he was like, if you don't like them, I'm sure some street kid will buy them. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm either going to like them or not. Yeah. Put them on the Woods, stood on it, and I was like, unreal. This feels perfect. Went off the first jump at the trails. Well, this is dog shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, straight up. I was like, oh, man, this sucks. But I thought it would because I hadn't ridden for so long.
Okay.
And then through a couple of things, I was like, man, my rear end feels fucking enormous now with short cranks.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that ratio from your back foot to your back axle was quite relevant as a thing. And so I was like, man, my rear end feels fucking huge. This is like, let's put the other cranks on and ride bikes. Like, I don't have time for this. And then I was talking to B-Dog about it, and I put the cranks back in the Woods and was trying to do manuals and stuff. And I was like, oh man, this just feels huge. And I was like, oh, I can't take any more links out of the Woods because it's set up to go fast. Like, it's 14-inch rear end minimum. And then I was like talking to B-Dog, and that's how the whole yellow bike came about, because I was like, oh, how short is the rear end on the MOD? And he was like, slammed, it's like 13.7 or something. Yeah. I still like having a long rear end. And I was like, that might be enough. Buy the bike off B-Dog, put the short cranks in it. Unreal. Feels real good. Turns out then the next analytical thing in my head was like, I am way too far off the ground now, because as your feet come closer together, I stood up really tall.
Yeah,
and
so sure.
And
then
so
your
that
bars changed.
Then my bars changed, and then I was like, and then I started being like, all right, I think the ideal thing would be like having little cranks for my feel in my body, like of trying to square everything up, but having maybe like 11.4, 11.3 BB with 165 cranks and like a 13. And then you could run a standard rear end like a 13.5 situation and it would feel like my bike.
Yeah, yeah.
But I wouldn't feel like I was standing on an 11.8 bottom bracket with the shorter cranks, which that was interesting even in itself to like to put the cranks on the woods and then go to drop into something that I know how to ride and have it just not work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting to think that, because we're so fixated on, or at least you and I are, and I know a lot of other people are fixated on the idea of geometry in a frame, and then you just think like, oh, shorter cranks, like I don't want them because I don't need those because I don't run pegs.
Yeah.
But when you then shorten your stance, then all of a sudden you're standing up slightly taller, which then puts your hands further away from your bars, or
or you get to stand more aggressively naturally.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you could lean.
Because the immediate thing that happened was I could drop in with shorter cranks and pull laps in the bowl for quite a while and not fatigue out my legs as bad because my weight was more evenly distributed. Yeah. Like even that in itself, like how much, I don't know, like dudes who don't switch their feet or like only go one way, like I'm sure that the top of their thighs, one leg is bigger than the other, like their back foot.
Oh, totally, yeah.
And dude, it was like, it took that away. Like all of a sudden, and then I'd hop back on my woods, which then had the 175s, and it was noticeable to be able to directly like pull a lap, go and hop on another bike. I noticed straight away how much more load was going through my back foot.
Crazy. Wow. Man, that's so...
Dude, the street bike has become the science bike. It's like the experiment. Like, just to know and understand. Like, even if I don't like it, like, I'll just sell it. Like,
yeah, that's cool to not be wedded to ideas about it too. Like, I think you can get a little bit stuck in how you want to ride your bike with geometry. And don't get me wrong, once you find something good, it's really good.
The woods is...
yeah.
That geo is off its head. Like,
yeah. But it's also cool to, like I did that with my bike with the carbon rims. I was like, fuck, I've got to try this, because if I don't try it, then I'll never know, And you was talking about that with the light tubes and shit now.
Well, that's what on the street bike, like I like riding a 21.5 top tube. Like it just turns out that's my size. Like I've gone to smaller and slightly bigger and it didn't really feel right. But 21.5 feels good. But for doing in the bowl tech streety things that I still like to do, I was like, how do I make my big bike feel like a little bike? And it was just take some of the weight out of the rotational weight, and then you talk to dudes like Brandon Lupos and stuff who you talked to before, and like they have specific everything for stunts.
Yeah.
And like everything is because of stunts.
Yeah, for sure.
And then but you would have talked to me 5 years ago and I'd be like, man, I'm thinking about putting light tires on because it might help with hop threes. And I'd be like, sounds rubbish. You should probably just get stronger. But then you do a hop three on someone's bike that weighs nothing and you're like, oh, actually, if I was to do this as a job like they do, that makes heaps of sense.
For sure. I don't know if I said it on the podcast or not, but Brandon was saying, dude, if you get a bike with all tire shit on it and really light, like those Tubolito tubes, and I don't even know if he necessarily said a short top tube, but he was basically saying like get a really light bike, and he's like, fuck it, all tricks so much easier. He was like 360 is so easy, and I was like, really? I don't see how it'd be easier, but fucking hell, he obviously proofs in the pudding, like if he's...
Yeah, well, if all of those dudes who do that sort of riding are running that type of setup, there has to be a reason. It can't just be because they froth tie.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. It's not... I mean, those guys have to be able to do tricks. They have to be able to spin, and they have to be able to stop spinning as well. So it's probably that's.
And if your job is to do 360s, I buy tools to make my job easier.
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
If that saw is going to cut timber better, I'm buying it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I could keep hacking away with a handsaw, but I don't know, I'm not the smartest human being, but I don't really like working that hard.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that is interesting with those competitive guys when you think about, they need to have the right tool to get the job done. They fucking hop on my bike. Like, they'd be like, how the fuck are you going to 1080 that?
Yeah. I would
Short
love to
bike,
see
right?
like those dudes ride our bikes.
Yeah.
Just straight up, just be like, you all get to only ride this for a month, and we'll ride them for a month, and we'll see what's going on.
Yeah, we'll see what's going on. It
Would be a fun
would
experiment.
be a super sick social experiment. Hey,
I'm pretty sure I would do 100% a backy, not because of anything other than having a 13.25 rear end would just make me die.
I know, yeah. I was actually thinking about that yesterday when I was at the park just coaching on my new bike, and because it's the longer back end again, I'm like, fuck, I don't know if I'll be able to do a backy like quite as easily anymore.
Yeah.
Like I thought, I'll just do a fly out backy, and I'll probably end up fucking like front wheel
Oh,
racing
yeah.
or something on the deck. Yeah, man, I love talking about bike shit. Like, it's so fun to think about all the different perspectives and you know,
And then the I guess like that, and then there's also the flip side to that, where if you can do it, you can probably just do it.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter what you ride.
Oh yeah, that's
like
right.
if you know, like, shout out to Dean Manson. Like, he turned up after not being here for like 2 years on a bike that he'd built and not ridden, and within 3 laps was 3 in both ways on a brakeless bike that he said he hadn't been brakeless for quite some time.
Yeah,
On a brand new
out.
bike, like he'd never ridden it.
Just
And I was-
special talent. Hey.
And you're like, well, I can't learn that.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it is good to just be a little bit, not necessarily ignorant's not the right word, but you know that ignorance is bliss is such a good way of describing
like,
it.
there's some
yeah.
really happy, stupid people.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and it's
not
that
stupid, but just like, if you don't think about stuff, it's not going to fuck with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can overthink it sometimes. It's almost that desert island thing where it's like, if you got like a bike from Kmart, I'm sure you'd be able to fucking ride the shit out of it if that's your only option. But
Yeah, like, you know.
yeah, it's fun to hypothesize with all the different componentry aspects of
Because,
the
yeah, like,
bike.
sometimes, like, you see it in mountain biking heaps. Dudes will get, like, so fixated on parts that it actually becomes, like, a hurdle. They're like,
Yeah.
if I don't have this, I can't do this. Yeah, well, like, that's the extreme of that. But then there's also a dude who's probably going to hammer down the hill on the most dog shit dual suspension thing from Big W and be having the time of his life.
Oh, for sure.
And he ain't going to give 2 shits if his forks are 2 degrees different.
Yeah,
You're going down the hill. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to go. Like, I've got the big, like, We the People, it's called the Avenger. It's just like no shocks or whatever, but it's essentially a BMX, but 27.5.
Yep.
And I can't wait it's got like disc brakes front and back and shit, but I can't wait to go to Stromlo and ride the shit that's there. But everyone that I've spoken to that's in the BMX world, like Russell and shit, like, they're like, yeah, man, bike will be sick. But then you speak to like mountain bike people and they're like, what?
because
You're
then
gonna
they
get
take
all the looks.
then
like,
they take the horses for courses thing too far. Because, like, I like having 2 bikes. Like, I like having pegs and shit for doing coping things and whatever.
Yeah.
But then there's, like, I think Baxter was saying there's, like, shout out Baxter, you fucking legend. There's, like, 4 or 5 different type of mountain bikes that you can ride to go down a hill.
Yeah.
And I'm like, at what point, like, and he's like, this one's better for pedaling on the flat, and this one's better for climbing up hills, and this one's better for going down hills, and this one goes real fast down hills, and this one is heinous to pedal uphill. You wouldn't want to do it.
yeah.
And I'm like, that's like $30,000 worth of bike to fucking ride down a hill, dude.
I know, yeah, probably more, dude. Yeah, I know. That is a cool thing about BMX. Like, I think it's really cool that you've got 2 bikes because, fuck, why not?
Well, I'm 36 years old. I can have 2 bikes. If I
Yeah,
want.
you can have fucking. That's exactly right. But you know, like, that is kind of cool about BMX that you can just do, like, there are the street dudes that rock up at the trails on the fucking.
Yeah, if you can make it happen. But also, the thing that gets to me is, like, there's some dudes that are fucking amazing at riding transition or trails and stuff, and then they've set up their bike to do the thing that they're into, and then it's become restrictive to the point where they can't go and do the other thing.
Yeah.
And if they want to do it, that should facilitate either a different frame or setup, or look on Facebook Marketplace or whatever and sort yourself out another bike, like, so you can ride more bikes.
Yeah,
Because that's the whole, like, time on pedals. Like,
Yeah.
that's, you know, we're getting older, we get limited time
Agreed.
to stand on pedals. So the more options you create to stand on more pedals.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, I mean, like, Riss has got that
He's got the squishy thing.
Jones-peni, 20-inch bike, and at first, I've always kind of been like, oh fuck, why do you need that bike for? But I can totally see why you would want to be like, if you want to ride BMX, but you've got kids that are going up the mountain.
Yeah,
fucking take that thing.
Yeah, just bomb down the hill.
Being like, oh, I don't have a bike.
Yeah, 100%.
So
like,
sick.
There's so many sports that have like different tools for different jobs.
Yeah, you don't play golf with one fucking club, do you?
No, well, you can, but you look like a goon.
Yeah.
You'll only be good at putting.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can drive the ball with the putter, no dramas, but you would be better with this other thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And like surfing in particular, like,
exactly,
dudes have quivers of shit, spend tens of thousands of dollars having like 15 surfboards.
Yeah, just if the waves are different.
Yeah.
They're at the same
Oh, look
beach.
at that. The wave is a bit fatter. Oh, we'll get the mal out today.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's not quite fat enough. Oh, we'll get the fish out today.
Yeah,
And you're like,
for sure.
Dudes traveling around with like, 6 surfboards. So the conditions are right. Like,
Yeah.
And then, but if you turn up on a road trip with 2 bikes, everyone will be like, what are you doing, you fucking kook?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Well, what if we turn up somewhere that's got 10-foot tranny that we didn't know and it'd be sick?
Yeah.
Like,
or fuck, we rode past this sick looking street spot that like.
Yeah. Like when we went and did.
Or a
the
pool or something.
When we went and did the big concrete thing with Shadow, we went and rode the full pipe. And, and rode the dam and stuff. I was like, I'm going to be going fast. There's no way I'm riding a brakeless bike with pegs. No fucking way. Like, and it was unreal. Just put the bike with brakes in the fucking car, go.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. Kind of opened my eyes to the idea of having a street. But I like riding street, but I definitely feel like it's limiting.
Yeah, but like riding a big bike on the street is shit. Yeah. Like, hops feel disgusting. Hop 3s are almost not achievable.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you got dudes like Johnny, like J-Mac. Shout out Johnny.
Yeah, Johnny, what a legend.
And you're like, he can do it all on this single unit.
I know. Yeah, and he has a setup that is so confusing to me. Like he's got the 825 bars. Like
I'm only on an 8.5 bar.
Oh, crazy! Yeah, right. On your woods.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
It's just got an enduro stem on it, but
yeah, sure.
But they're only little.
Yeah.
And I still cut them down to 27.5 because in the last 15 years my shoulders didn't get any wider.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. Like I run, they're actually 9.15, but I dropped my stem just now on my new bike. But you run a certain size for so long and you think that's the size, and then all of a sudden new size comes out and you're like, oh fuck, give them a shot.
Well, especially being in your industry where there is literally new sizes all the time, it would be hard to be like, maybe I do want this thing that keeps coming in the door and going out the door.
Yeah, I know. I feel like maybe 10-inch bars could be the thing. Maybe all of a sudden everyone's backs will be sweet.
Yeah. But maybe everyone will just run short cranks and their fucking backs will be sweet.
Yeah, dude, that's so true. Either that or we all learn how to ride both foot forward.
Yeah. Dude, switching your feet is a whole new thing.
Yeah. So so you run the jam every year?
Yeah.
The Valley View Jam?
Valley View Jam, June long weekend.
Do you have plans on continuing?
I think as long as I can muster it.
Yeah.
Like, this year was hard and I felt real bad because we dug our asses off and it was the priority. Like, I was trying to, like, shout out to the French boys, like, for showing me possibly, I feel like, one of the best jams on the planet at La Source, like Gems and all the boys in Toulouse. That was hands down the most welcoming family community jam that I've ever been to.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
It was like rock up, can't speak a word of English with anyone else on the roll-in. There's 35 people on the roll-in, and there's me, the Belgians, and like 3 English dudes. And so, like, the only fucking thing you hear is choo-choo, and then everyone's dropping in, like 30 people going through.
Wow.
Like, the best. And then you're like trying to have broken English conversations with people who may or may not know what the fuck's going on, which is sick. It's the best. And then I was trying hard this year to make that sort of thing happen. But it turns out it was just like too gnarly. Like, having the jam and with the amount of rain that was going on, like trying to just basically will it to happen was pretty gnarly and taxing this year. Like, it was it felt like the hardest I've worked to make it happen.
Yeah.
which was like, I don't know, by the end of it, I was fucking over it. Like, it was the first time where I got to the end of the weekend and I was like, I didn't have that much fun this time.
Oh, sure.
Like, between blowing my wrist out digging, like in the mud, trying to dig drains and build stuff with Baxter and Harrison. Thanks, boys, for turning up a week early and slogging your guts out. Because without those boys, it wouldn't have happened. Like, and yeah, like I took a week off. Like, some stuff wasn't happening fast enough, so I threw some money at an excavator for a day and just made some shit happen because I was like, I don't really want to ride this again. And then, but also like between that and then the stress of having an operation like 5 weeks before to have all the hardware removed from my ankle, like I didn't even walk properly till like basically till the boys turned up. I didn't walk properly until like the Thursday. Jam starts Friday.
Yeah.
Like, it was so very stressful that like to do it next year would just be like, righto, back to the old format. Like, here is the stuff.
Yeah.
Please contact me if you plan on arriving. Do not arrive unannounced. Do not bring 10 of your friends unannounced. And then, and just like, so you sort your own shit out. Like, this is where we're going to be. Sort your own shit out.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
I think, because like the gems, like the LaSource stuff, like, and it's not just gems, just everyone at the moment, I can't think of it, like, and Harry and like just the French boys, like they got it covered, the crew.
Yeah.
They're working on that thing for like 2.5 months prior. Like, they have cups, they have shirts, they have beer, like tokens, and like the whole setup. Like, it's an event.
That's impressive.
It's so amazing. Like, I'm so gutted that I didn't get there for the last one before they play out it, but I can't do everything.
Yeah.
And then and COVID, and then but yeah, I think next year, like, to take the stress off, like, just go back to digging and you guys sort yourself out.
Yeah, for sure.
And then at least that way, when it comes time to like, righto, the sun's going down, I don't have anything else to do. I can actually just talk to my friends.
For sure, yeah.
Like, there was a bit of a debacle with the food and stuff this year, which was mostly my own doing. Like, I had this grand plan in my head, and it was its failing was 100% my fault.
Yeah,
because
sure.
I just was chasing the dream.
Yeah.
And I thought, and probably to be fair, if the weather would have been fine for the week and a half leading up to the jam, I would have had more time to help Reiki with the food prep. Thank you very much for sorting out all the food and stuff, Reiki. Like, it was an amazing thing to have him be a part of it. He can cook like a son of a bitch. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
His food was delicious.
Yeah.
But also, like, I didn't provide what I said I was going to do because I was busy digging drains.
Yeah.
I couldn't physically output any more of myself. And after the weekend was over, I rode with Harrison and Baxter before they left because they were around for a couple more days. And at the end of it, I was just like, I didn't touch my bike for like nearly 3 weeks after that because I was just like, I've had enough. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think about bikes. I don't think about dirt jumps. I don't think about the jam.
Yeah.
I've had enough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a lot of years of you doing it, and I know that speaking from my own experience with like the ACT Jam, for example, you probably feel like you failed on certain fronts, and
I failed some of my friends, like my attitude, and then I failed like because I had an idea of grandeur that I also didn't live up to my own.
Yeah.
I'm pretty used to achieving my shit. Like,
yeah.
Like, the whole thing is like you can just earn more money, you can just work harder. Like, but at that point, I couldn't physically do any more to make it happen.
But what I think that from the outside of being someone, and I know that I wasn't here for a long time, but fucking jam was a roaring success as far as I'm
It was
the
jam itself. Like, I think the jam was a success.
Yeah.
If you took out what I had in my head that it was going to be, jam was a ripper.
Yeah.
Boys came from Adelaide. The boys came from Brisbane. A few dudes didn't come because it was going to be raining. Fair enough. I wouldn't have come either if I had to drive 13 hours and it was possibly going to be boggy.
Yeah.
The size of the ruts that the boys were riding through was commendable. Like, watching Nathan ride through on the 22 and just making it look like it was nothing, and I dropped in and went to ride 2 hips and was just like off the lip, and I was like, what the fuck has happened to my jump? Like, my muscle memory was done, and I was just like, I am not where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
But like, that part was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it was a failure. My idea of what I wanted it to be was.
Yeah.
And so like that just, it just put a bit of a like, righto, the recipe is I get the jumps running with whomever will come and help. I'm out. Like that's the recipe. Like here's the thing. We're all gonna be here.
Yeah,
Hit me
is
up.
the recipe. Hey, because
Like-
I think that like the Act Jam is built for me this time, like up to this point where it's this huge thing now. Like we're hiring this fucking venue that's like,
Dude,
Yeah,
Summer Nats is like,
like
it's a big deal.
it's a big tier, a big venue, and I'm always trying to think about how it's going to be, and I always want it to be better, and then you always think about, oh well, maybe if we add this or that to it, and bands, and fucking now we're going to build more ramps, and obviously shout out to all the dudes, including yourself, that help every year. But what I'm getting at is, it's like the people who just come. All they want to do, like the dudes that come to your jam, they just want to come because they just want to go somewhere, and it's an adventure. And it could it did rain. It was wet as when we were here this year.
Yeah, it was.
And I was super cold. One of the best, most memorable jams I've had here, and I've been coming to a lot of them for a lot of years. Watching
Brazil and Johnny 360 dirty 30 basically in the rain was the most fucked thing ever. But that line had the most tarps, so it was running the fastest out of everything.
But like
it was amazing.
Very basic, like people just want to go somewhere and enjoy their time, and they're not worried about your expectation of what it's going to be like.
Oh man,
I just am always so stressed about Act Jam. I'm like, fuck, I hope it's good. Like I hope people enjoy themselves. And like Mel, so my wife Mel and Riss are both like, dude, people will just come and like, you don't have to fucking worry about it. Like,
yeah, man. Like Nathan said it before. Like they were one of the last like heavy crews to roll out. Like came from Adelaide, and he was like, dude, this is one of the best fucking times ever. And I was like, thanks, man, because at that time I was like petering of peaks of emotion of like, everyone's here and this hasn't worked. Everyone's leaving. Fucking, am I going to clean up tomorrow? And like,
yeah.
But like for him to just turn around and be like, dude, this is hands down one of the best things I've been to. And that was like, that meant heaps, because in that moment we're at the trails, wasn't many dudes. It was pretty quiet. Like I had time to kind of take in what had happened. Whereas in the midst of it all, like at Act Jam, I imagine like there's just more to do all the fucking time. Like who is someone getting fed? Who's getting annoyed at whatever? Why does someone have the shits now? Like please don't swing dirt like that. Oh my God. Like
yeah, for sure. You can only see the things that are, stressful to you, whereas everyone else is just having
they're just having the best time. And so
it
was kind of nice for Nath to like basically pull me out my ass and be like, this was fucking sick. You did good. And I was like, thanks, Nath.
Nah, you do good every year, man, and it's like I've said earlier, and I don't know if I've said it to you over the years, but what you do here, man, is so inspiring to me. And the fact that you do it here, where you essentially you fucking turn this place into a one-man scene. I know that your brother comes in and out of town every now and again, and a lot of people come here and travel, but you have looked at what you have in your surrounds and be like, well, I'm just going to create my own fucking paradise. And that's what I think is really commendable, and it's a big inspiration for me. So I appreciate being able to come out here and see it, and not even ride it, just to see it fills me with like, wanting to go back and do better. So
sick. Thanks, man.
I'm hyped, man, and I'm actually really hyped that we've got this done, because
we've been trying to make it happen.
It happen, and I'm excited.
Yeah, dude, it's been good.
But I'm gonna use your skills hopefully to help me out with Act Jam in a couple of weeks. But until then,
we'll talk to the boss man of Jason Watts and see what he's got planned. And
for sure, but I appreciate everything you do, brother, and
dude,
thanks for coming on.
No worries, man.
Awesome.
Good to chat.
No worries. Thanks for listening, everyone, and see you next time.
No worries. See you guys.
Bye.